Welcome everybody to this episode of Calfee Now. Today I am joined with Nick Bush from Calfee, Jamie Gregory from Calfee, and Congressman Mike Carey. Thank you, Mr. Carey, for joining us. My name is Dan Reinhard. I'll hopefully take us through the conversation today. And Mike, we're really excited to have you. And for those who don't know, Mike Carey was sworn in as a member of the United States House of Representatives on November 4th, 2021, representing Ohio's 15th Congressional District. Mike, tell us a little bit about your district. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I mean, the district is completely different than what it was when I won the first time. I went from a district that was literally one county away from the state of West Virginia to now a district that is one county away from Indiana. So, and if we have redistricting again, as you know, Dan, I mean, we don't know where the district's going to go. But, you know, if you look really within the last 3 years, I mean, we will probably have represented about 20% of the state. So when I ran the second time, which was for the full term, it was 70% new voters. I pick up most of downtown Columbus. So if you look at the State House and you look at the skyline, that's our district. But we go all the way over to Shelby and Miami County. So it's a diverse district. It's a district. We have about 25% minority district. It's about a +6 Republican district. So probably if you look at all of the other congressional districts around the state that are held by Republicans, probably one of the closest. Max Miller and I have a similar numbers, but it's a agriculture, inner city, suburbs, you name it. So it's a great district. I live in downtown Columbus, so it's it's convenient for me for having downtown.
Great. And it's great to have a diverse district. Ohio's a diverse state, so you probably see a lot of those different issues that your voters see are voters that all of Ohio see. You're in Washington, D.C. I'd love to hear a little bit about what your impressions are. You've been there for a little while now. Yeah. And in particular, you had an interesting kickoff to this year. You're in the House majority now. Very interesting race for Speaker. It seems like that's behind you. How do you feel this Republican conference is going to coalesce and move the ball forward?
Well, I think first off, what a lot of people don't realize that, they saw the 15 votes for Speaker and they wondered why we kept voting and we didn't adjourn. And the problem is that you had 20 individuals in the Republican conference that wanted to gain some concessions, so to speak, and they didn't want to adjourn, and the Democrats didn't want to adjourn. So we didn't really have the ability to adjourn. So luckily for us, a couple nights it went on till way late in the night that everybody agreed, hey, it's just going too late. We'll adjourn and go in the next morning. But that's why you saw the 15 votes. And so some of the things that were given up, I think, by our conference, we had our conference rules that were set. We had talked about the vacating of the chair. This was something that had been done historically, that one person could object or one person could put forth a motion to vacate the chair. This was something that had gone on forever. When Nancy Pelosi came into office, she wanted to make sure that you couldn't just have one, you had to have a majority. When our conference met, and I'm talking about the Republican conference, we all agreed that we wanted a majority of the people to make a motion to vacate the chair. Then we agreed with some of the folks that were in the Freedom Caucus that said we wanted 5. But then, the day of what we thought was going to be the day of the swearing in, they wanted to go to 1. We agreed to that. And there were a couple other things, but I think in the end, the last vote for Speaker, we got there. And I think you've seen from the votes over the last few days since we've actually been in the majority, I think we've got a very strong caucus. And I think we're gonna move the agenda forward that Kevin put forth, which was the commitment to America. And I think we'll get some Democrats on board too. I really do.
Good. That's great. That's great to see that leadership. And one of the biggest steps after the leadership debate, and I think it's great to move the caucus forward, is the assigning of committees. Nick, you're all over this kind of stuff. What are you seeing, and what questions do you have for Mike about the committee process?
Well, thanks, Dan. Thanks for being here today, Mike. Getting committee assignments is the first step of business, and we're now into February today. And this past week, we've seen organizing meetings, getting committees up and running really gets you, the Republican majority, on track to accomplish your goals. But before we get into what you think this next 2 years is going to be like, just tell us about your process in getting a committee assignment that you think is going to be impactful, that is a policy that interests you, and where did you land as we start this 118th Congress?
Well, Nick, I mean, great question. I think if you look at where we are today, when I got to Congress, 15 months ago, I knew right away that I wanted to go for the Ways and Means Committee. And Ways and Means is the only committee that's actually in the Constitution. So, I mean, I am one of 25 Republicans that got there. I am the most people will wait years to get to Ways and Means. And as you know, Nick and Dan, I mean, we made the full court press to try to get that committee. And I was very fortunate because the person that became the committee chair is Jason Smith. And Jason was also the budget chair, which I actually served on. So what's really great about that is we have a very good working relationship with the staff that Jason is moving over from budget that's moved over to Ways and Means. So one of the things that Jason is going to do, and this is a committee, and for folks who know me, know that I really want to try to get things done. And Ways and Means is a committee that can actually get things done and get things done in a bipartisan way. And that's something that I've always done my whole career. So, we have 25 Republicans on that committee. We have 18 Democrats. And I think if you look at, as we develop the rules of all of the committees, when you look at where we were at Ways and Means, we really didn't have much debate. We had about an hour and a half debate on some of the rules. But if you look at E&C, you look at natural resources, they had debate on their rules for 7 hours. So I think you have a lot of serious people that are on the Ways and Means Committee. Jason has, or the chairman, Jason Smith, is said that we're going to go out to the American public. We've got our first field hearing that we're going to do in West Virginia. That's going to be on Monday. And it's about a 2-hour drive from Washington. We're all flying in on Sunday night, much to our family's chagrin, I can assure you. But we're going to take these hearings out to the American public to see what's working and what's not working. And listen, I think we've got a really good team, whether it's on the Republican side, the Democrat side, and we'll move an agenda forward through Ways and Means that I think people will be proud of.
Excellent. Well, congratulations on that. I know that effort is Herculean to land on one of those coveted committee spots, and best of luck going forward. And before I turn this over to Jamie, what subcommittee assignments have you gotten a handle on? Are you looking forward to diving into anything particular?
Well, so I mean, if you look, so I was very fortunate. We got Ways and Means, but again, we have a thing on Ways and Means. It's called the Martin Rule, which means the most junior is the last one to pick. So I was able to get one of the subcommittee roles, which is the Work and Welfare Subcommittee. And then I joined Drew Ferguson, who is the chair of the subcommittee on Social Security. So I'm one of the people that'll be on the Social Security subcommittee. The thing about Ways and Means, though, is that it touches everything. And so while you have the subcommittees, and you guys know this, but as you have the subcommittees, it's really the full committee that works together. Like what we're doing at this field hearing on Monday is a full committee hearing. So we're going to have a lot of questions about a lot of different things. So while you have the subcommittee chairs and the subcommittees that you're on, you're really still focused on the full committee. The other, and I was fortunate enough, Speaker McCarthy asked me to serve on the House Admin Committee, which is a committee that a lot of people that aren't in DC don't know what the House Admin Committee does, but it does everything. It does everything from the functions of the House, the functions of the ground, to voter issues across the country. And so I was put on that as I got a waiver from the speaker for Ways and Means, was able to serve on a second committee, and then just found out yesterday that I'm going to be the chair of the Franking Committee. So I don't know that I'm going to have a lot of time, guys, but the subcommittees are going to be fun, but the full committees are going to be better.
Well, Congressman, as Nick and Dan mentioned, congratulations on getting Ways and Means.
Thanks, Jamie.
Really shows a lot of respect in the conference that you got on the committee after only 15 months. I mean,
Yep.
normally it takes several Congresses, as you mentioned, to get there.
Yep.
But the Ways and Means Committee has a diverse portfolio. Ohio has a diverse economy. And I was wondering what particular issues that you want to focus on that are both important to Ohio and important to the country.
Well, I think if you look at the obviously energy independence and what we need to do to make sure that we continue to have our natural resources, whether it's hard rock mining, whether it's oil and gas, but I think if you also just look at the tax code, you've seen a lot of great reinvestment into whether it's downtown Columbus, downtown Cleveland, downtown Cincinnati, with some of these historical tax credits. These are all things that would have to go through the Ways and Means Committee, something that I've as many people know, I'm a champion for historical preservation, and there are a lot of things that we can do within the tax code to make sure that happen. Particularly in Cleveland, I think you see a lot of what's going on downtown. And my hope is some of these regional meetings, maybe we can look at that. Look at what's working in terms of the tax code to preserve some of these structures. Not only just from the standpoint of saving the buildings, but also saving the cities that these buildings are in. So. I'm excited about the opportunity. I think we're going to do a lot of trade issues. I mean, we know that's going to be a big issue. I think Jason has mentioned that we will probably do a couple Codels into some of the ports across the world just to kind of understand what's going on, what's working, what's not working. That's the beauty of Ways and Means. It touches every aspect, whether it's banking, whether it's insurance, whether it's construction, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's energy. And my hope is, as one of two Ohioans on the committee, two of the 25, I think Brad Winstrip, who's based out of Cincinnati, who focuses on the healthcare portion, that's his focus. He's a doctor. I think we're going to do a lot of really good things and look at some amazing things that we can do to help change the course of this country right now.
That's great.
That's great. Congressman Carey, we're really lucky to have a member like you in office, taking on these different issues. You've described, the committees you're on, the duties that you're going to take on for the speaker, the duties that you'll have in committee. There's a lot of things that go on in Congress, though, outside of your committee work in the time that you do have. Hopefully you'll be able to get home, see the family now and then, but there's a lot of things that you may want to look at personally and see what's going on in this committee, what's going on in these areas. What are some of those things that you've been paying particular attention to that maybe don't fit in your committee lane, but are things important nonetheless?
Well, I mean, I think the one thing that you've got to look at in terms of where we are as Ohio, we've got a really diverse group of folks that serve as members of Congress, but we also have a very good working relationship bipartisanly. I mean, I think if you look at the people that came in, I mean, Max Miller and I, took time out of our Saturday. We were at Amelia Sykes swearing in up in Akron last Saturday. We were the only two congressional people that were actually there. Both of us Republicans. Chantel Brown, she and I got sworn in together. She and I have a very close working relationship. Marcy's been great to me. Joyce Beatty and I are looking at reinstituting something that her and Steve Stivers put together, which is kind of the civility caucus. Because I think a lot of people see what you see on TV. You see the extremes on the left and you see the extremes on the right. But for the most part, I think most of us, we're kind of right there in the middle. And we may not agree, on the way we get from point A to point B, but we all agree that we got to get to point B. It's just a matter of how we get there. Greg Landsman, who's the new Democrat out of Cincinnati, we actually are neighbors in the Longworth building now. He and I've met, and I think we're going to work on some legislation together. I think the biggest thing that people need to take away is that what they see on TV is a very partisan divide within the Congress. And in my opinion, I don't see that as much. I mean, you'll see that on certain issues, but I think overall, I think there's a lot that we can agree. There's still going to be things that we can agree to disagree on, but we don't have to be disagreeable. And so my hope is that my relationship with the Democrats and my colleagues' relationship with the Democrats and us, we can be kind of the model for the rest of the country. And believe me, I think we're going to get there. When you look at the numbers that we have, we're going to have bipartisan bills in order to get things done. And so my hope is that the other states and the other parts of the countries will see what we've done in Ohio and make that be a model for what we do moving forward.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. What we hear from a lot of people with whom we work is how do we get them to get things done?
Yeah.
And knowing you throughout your entire career, I know that you've always been a person who has tried to figure out how do we get things done. And
That's right.
so that's exciting to hear. We know that those other members that you identified throughout Ohio are fantastic members, people that we know and we've talked to as well, and really, really excited to hear that you're working with them and forging those relationships. I don't really have anything else that we were going to target, but I wondered, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on, in your role, or you want to talk about? There's going to be a lot of people that want to express their views to you, get in touch with your staff. How does somebody find Congressman Mike Carey?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. I'm trying to find myself half the time, Dan. I think, anybody can find us on social media. We have a pretty big presence on that, our website, our Facebook site, just the general number, which obviously I don't have in front of me, so I can't give it to you. But I mean, we're pretty easy to get a hold of, and we have a very good district staff. We've moved over to an office that's in downtown Columbus. Plenty of parking, very accessible. I mean, Dan, I think you actually may have been here. I mean, it's pretty close to Cap Square, which is where I wanted us to be, because a lot of times, when people come downtown and they have issues with the auditor or the Secretary of State or the treasurer, they want to visit their state legislators. I wanted to make sure that we were in a position, and because it is our district, that they could easily walk over and, whether it's a Social Security issue, it's a visa issue, it's trying to get a passport, it's a veterans issue. We wanted everything to be very close to the Capitol so it could be easy for everybody. So, but we got a great team in the state, and if anybody needs us, we're pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Nick, Jamie, anything before we close out?
No, I think we're good.
We're excited to see that you're putting yourself in a position to be helpful to all. And as someone who worked on the last iteration of the Civility Caucus, we are extremely excited to see that there's some effort to bring that back, because we need that more than ever now. And happy to have a champion in Central Ohio with Joyce Beatty sort of leading that way. So thank you for what you're doing.
And to that end, I think I think, Nick, if you look at what she and I talked about, I think what her and Steve did was really focus on the schools. And I think we'll continue to do that. But I think the other thing is we're going to continue to reach out. One of the things that she and I talked about is reaching out to the businesses across, obviously for me, I go from Central Ohio to Western Ohio, but in Central Ohio in particular, where we both share the county, Franklin County, really try to step up and say and explain to folks, what you see on TV, as I said earlier, what you see on TV and what actually is the reality of it is that, we're going to work together, we're going to get along, and we're going to move forward. We may not always agree on everything, but in the end, we agree that we're going to work together to find what's best for this country. So Joyce has been very good with that. Steve did a great job with that. And my hope is that Joyce and I together can help lead again for Central Ohio, but also for what we do nationally with Republicans and Democrats.
Well, that's amazing. Calfee is here to help with that effort, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. And that'll conclude this edition of Calfee Now.